All right, good evening to you. Welcome to the program tonight. This is The Bottom Line. My name is Brian Amwai. And tonight we'll be having a conversation. We do understand that from tomorrow, we expect demonstrations across the country and also here across the country rather in different towns, just like we did see that last week. This is courtesy of the Azimio La Umoja One Kenya coalition. What are they calling for? They're calling for the reduction of the cost of living. But these demonstrations do have their negative side in terms of use of force from the police officers and also loss of lives, plus the destruction of property. The government says it will not, it is adamant rather to not allow these demonstrations to go on, and it will use any means necessary to make sure that they do not happen. All right. The Azimio coalition and the protesters argue that their right to protest and picket is provided for in the Constitution. We do look at, or rather we will be looking at the rights, the abuse of human rights and protests in our conversation here on The Bottom Line KE. I'll be speaking to Achieng Osogo, who is a governance expert, and also Otieno Namwaya, who is the East Africa Director, Human Rights Watch. We'll be getting into that conversation, so start engaging us on our socials. At Amoy Brian on Twitter, at Lookuptv. The hashtag we are using tonight is The Bottom Line KE. We are also live on Facebook and on YouTube, so be sure to send your feedback on those particular social platforms. Tell us what you think about the force that has been used to get to mitigate this particular issue when it comes to protests, and also how protesters are acting when they are carrying out their constitutional right to picket. All right, our sign language interpreter tonight is Josephine Ouko. These are the top stories tonight.
RUTO is at war, not just with Azimio, but with the entire Kenyan population. Tonight on The Bottom Line, the 3-day anti-government demos are unstoppable, Azimio coalition declares. Also tonight, UK and US-led high commissioners call for dialogue to end protests as Law Society of Kenya warns police against using excessive force. And shock as a 19-year-old student of Kabete Polytechnic is found dead with deep cut injuries on the face.
All right, and just a reminder that you can engage us on our socials at Lookuptv across all social media platforms, and that is on Facebook and also on YouTube. Let's start the program tonight. Azimio La Umoja maintains that their planned 3-day anti-government protest is still on, despite the withdrawal of security of their leaders. Addressing a press conference on Tuesday at Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Foundation in Nairobi, the leaders said they will not be cowed into calling off the demonstrations. The leaders also accused the government of targeting them using a militia group that intends to attack them as they take to the streets.
As leaders, we have reached the decision that we shall fear not those who kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul.
Wednesday 18th is a day when the Azimio coalition has promised the game-changer maandamano, the coalition leaders maintaining that they will carry on with the protest despite their security being withdrawn. The Azimio La Umoja coalition has announced 3 places where their supporters will converge for the protest beginning on Wednesday.
Even with the intimidation of withdrawal of security, Azimio confirms that the protests planned for Wednesday, tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday this week are on as earlier announced. Our voices must be heard. In Nairobi, we will have 3 convergence points: Joseph Kang'ethe grounds, Kamukuji grounds, Jacaranda grounds.
To show dissatisfaction with the government of the day, the leaders called on Kenyans to turn up in large numbers and bang cooking pots and pans, launching what they call is the Sufuria movement.
Tomorrow, we ask Kenyans to come out of their homes and bang sufurias, pots and pans to signify lack of food. The Sufuria movement kicks off tomorrow and continues until the battle is won. At that hour of midday We also call on motorists to stop wherever they are on the highways and roads and to hoot and flash lights in support of this movement.
The call for maandamano comes at a time when leaders from different organizations have called on the government and opposition to have a dialogue and resolve the issues.
Against the backdrop of the protests, the Kenya Kwanza administration has withdrawn all security previously attached to the leadership of Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya Coalition Party. Everyone associated with this party and the ongoing protests, including the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, the Honorable Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, the Honorable Martha Karua, the leaders of minority, and a host of Azimio governors and members of parliament have had their security withdrawn.
We have proper, accurate, and detailed information about OSU. We know its members wear civilian clothes. They travel in groups of 5 people from one ethnic community. They are heavily armed with lethal weapons. They are better facilitated in terms of logistics and transportation, remuneration, communication, and weapons and the country's official security agencies. This is a group that last week killed people in Kamukunji, Mlolongo, and Jogoo roads. They fired at people from unmarked green, black, gray, silver, red, and white, mostly Subaru vehicles.
Brian Amwai, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
Embassies and high commissions of 13 European countries have expressed their concerns on the anti-government demonstrations set to resume tomorrow. And as Yan Keitani now reports, the countries are now urging both parties to find alternative ways of settling their disputes without the anti-government protests led by the opposition chief, Raila Odinga.
The embassies and high commissions of England, United States, Germany, Canada, Australia, Switzerland, among other countries in the European Union, through their social media platforms, have expressed concerns over the anti-government demonstrations. The joint statement read, and I quote, "We are saddened by the loss of life and concerned by the higher level of violence, including the use of live rounds and the destruction of property during the recent demonstrations. We recognize the daily hardships faced by many Kenyans and urge all parties to table their concerns through a meaningful dialogue and resolve their differences peacefully to build the nation together, ensuring no further loss of life. We stand ready to support the parties in their efforts to find constructive peace solutions." The statement comes hours to the resumption of the second wave of anti-government demonstrations scheduled for Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, with ODM Secretary General accusing President William Ruto of planning to hire goons to attack peaceful demonstrators.
Received intelligence that in fact senior police officers in the Kenyan Police Command have chosen to ignore the illegal directive that was given by CS Kindiki for police officers to shoot protesters. And that is the reason why the president convened a PG, because he knows the police will not do his dirty work. He has now told his own members of parliament to mobilize people in their constituencies to come and harm protesters.
As the opposition remains adamant on holding demonstrations, President William Ruto has on more than one occasion castigated the opposition and its demonstrations, insisting that his government will handle the situation differently.
We are going to have a conversation as a nation about demonstration. We must have a candid conversation about what amounts to demonstration, because we cannot continue to use the excuse of demonstrations to destroy property, public or private. Mimi nataka niwahakikishia Wakenya, we will mobilize every resource to protect the property, the lives, the interests of every Kenyan as we go forward.
Ian Keitane, Lookuptv.
Now, the Law Society of Kenya has called for dialogue between the government and the Azimio coalition ahead of the 3-day planned demonstrations by the opposition. Now, speaking in Nairobi, LSK President Eric Theuri castigated the widespread violence during protests and called on IPOA to probe the deaths and injuries witnessed.
Ahead of the planned Azimio demonstrations tomorrow to Friday, Law Society of Kenya has cautioned the police against using excessive force.
Concerned by the widespread cases of violence and allegations of unnecessary or disproportionate use of violence, including the use of firearms by the police during the recent protests. There are reports of a number of people who have been killed and a number have been injured in the demonstrations.
LSK boss Eric Theuri has maintained the right to protest as per the Article 37 of the Constitution by peacefully and unarmed demonstrators and called on protesters to observe peace during the protests.
The right to protest plays a crucial role in any democratic society. It provides a platform for people to express their views, call for change and influence government policy. It is a right that is guaranteed under Article 37 of the Kenyan Constitution, which provides that every person has the right, peacefully and unarmed, to assemble, to demonstrate, to picket, and to present petitions to public authorities. This right is also guaranteed under regional and international human rights instruments that have been ratified by Kenya, including Article 11 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, famously known as the Banjul Charter, and Article 21 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights.
Theuri has castigated the national government for withdrawing police officers assigned to Azimio coalition leaders, noting that the Constitution requires them protected.
Opposition, some of whom enjoy security by virtue of the positions that they hold. It will be a height of irresponsibility. It demonstrates that the police service has taken sides in a political contest. It is an act that is grossly irresponsible.
The LSK president is now calling for a national dialogue and consensus moving forward, and has insisted on the need for sobriety amongst leaders.
We also desire to see acts of reconciliation, acts of putting the country above political interest, and that the various political factions can begin to have meaningful dialogue towards resolving the challenges that we face as a country.
Stanley Lugaria, Lookuptv.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki has warned Azimio protesters that they will face the law in the event they engage in violent demonstrations on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. Now, in a statement on Tuesday, while condemning last week's chaotic demonstrations, Kindiki noted that security agencies have been deployed to avert violent protests across the country. Kindiki also urged Kenyans to continue with their normal lives despite fear of the demonstrations turning chaotic. All right, these stories about demonstrations and the right to picket will be forming the basis of our discussion tonight here on the Bottom Line KE. Engage us on our socials at Amuai Brian on Twitter, at Lookuptv. The hashtag we are using tonight is the Bottom Line KE. Tell us what you think about the protests that are supposed to be, the 3-day protest that will be happening from tomorrow, and also what has happened in the past and how it has been handled by both the government, law enforcers, and also the oppositions. And what responsibility do people who take to the streets actually have? What do they need to do? Is there a better way of sending a message? We'll be getting into that conversation later on here on the program with my guests. I'll be telling you more about that when we come back from this particular break.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern Bypass, Nairobi, which provides modern infrastructure for smooth operations for industries and business enterprises. Infinity Industrial Park offers world-class amenities and facilities with wide roads, a police station, a power substation, fire station, public transport stage, hospital, and shopping mall. In addition, Infinity Industrial Park also offers CCTV cameras, 24-hour private armed security patrol, sewer, water, fiber optic cable, and 3-phase power connection, added to public utility, canteen, and dining areas. Sail on the golden opportunity to invest in Infinity Industrial Park fully serviced warehouses at a special price of 3,569 Kenyan shillings per square foot. For more inquiries, visit our website infinityindustrialpark.com.
The county government of Nyeri, with approval of His Excellency the Governor, Mutahi Kahiga, has granted 100% waiver on all interest and penalty accrued on all outstanding land rates. Property owners in Nyeri County are advised to take advantage of the waiver period that starts from 30th June 2023 and ends on 28th July 2023 on condition that the principal rates are paid in full. Property owners are advised to obtain invoices from the Sub-County Revenue Office where the property is located and make payment by depositing cash or banker's check to a bank account. Take notice that once the waiver period lapses, the county government will institute all necessary measures to recover any unpaid rates and penalties, including repossessing the property.
It's time to restart, rescale, and talk about health matters.
If you get exposed to high fluoride between 0 to 12 years, your teeth will be permanently discolored.
Wake up, eat healthy, and keep fit. With the help of health experts, we will help you understand different health conditions and how to treat them.
Dental fluorosis is an irreversible condition that affects the outer layer of your tooth.
This is your health journal. My name is Wanjugu Washira.
Every Wednesday from 8:30 p.m.
Everything will be well discussed here on this platform.
Only on Lookuptv.
The future is hands-on, and Sensei College is at the front line of technical institutes in Kenya, offering practical and skill-based courses accredited by all concerned bodies, TVETA, NTSA and NITA. Sensei College offers driving and plant operator, cosmetology, fashion and design, mechanics, hydroponics and irrigation, installation, building construction, hospitality, photography and video production, electrical and electronics repairs, and ICT courses. Get free plant operated training when you enroll for plant mechanics, free driving when you enroll for motor vehicle mechanics, and free riding when you enroll for motorcycle mechanics. The requirement is an ID only with intakes every first week of the month. We have 2 campuses in Nakuru and Nairobi. We provide meals and accommodation. Sensei College. My skills, my future.
Usiwahi cheza na mboga yangu. Na unafuata nani? Sisikuona ukinifuata. Nimekwambia una shares kwa hii kuku. Nikadharuka man.
Hebu kwanza rudi ndani ufresh hiyo choo na make sure umespray.
Juli kwani wewe? Hii tumbo yako mimi najua inaweza ingiza kila kitu. Hata chuma nikishiaga nikupea hata plastic najua utakula. Kwani leo kunaendaje? Kuna kitu sielewi.
Kabisa Mluya. Yaani umeamua kulala uchi.
Sasa kama hakuna ile nguo inanitosha unataka nifanye aje?
Because you are fat.
Sasa ukiongelea mimi ati fat. Na Julie tutasemaje?
Kuja.
Now, the Cabinet has today approved the Anti-Money Laundering and Combating of Terrorism Financing Amendment Bill, which, among other things, enhances the penalties for violations for declarations on cross-border currency. Now, this comes as the Commission for Revenue Allocation hints at reviewing funding to county governments. As Juliet Chepkoech now reports, CRA Commissioner Benedict Muasia made the revelation after holding talks with Elgeyo Marakwet Governor Wilsie Rotich.
The Financial Reporting Center is set to impose sanctions for violations of the proceeds of crime following the Cabinet's approval of the draft Anti-Money Laundering and Combating of Terrorism Financing Laws Bill of 2023. If enacted by the Parliament, FRC, the Anti-Money Laundering Agency, will have the power to show the instances under which it might request for the revocation of a reporting institution's license. Besides raising the cash transaction reporting threshold from $10,000 to $15,000, the bill provides for the requirement for companies to keep a register of beneficial owners.
Yes, sometimes.
Elsewhere, Benedict Muasia, a commissioner with the Commission of Revenue Allocation, has hinted at CRA coming up with a formula that will put into consideration counties facing myriad of challenges.
We don't want to be very generic. We want to be very, very tailor-made. We want to come up with a formula that considers the unique challenges of every county. And that is why we want to promise Kenyans that the next formula will be a bit versatile. It will not be very rigid. The county assembly, for example, taking about 700 million. Now 700 million to oversight 1.2 billion shillings. You see, iko taabu hapo.
Elgeyo Marakwet Governor Wesley Rotich decried underfunding for the last 10 years while remaining hopeful that they will get a better allocation in future.
For the last 10 years, we still feel that we were disenfranchised. We were actually unfairly, didn't get our fair share as a county compared to the challenges that we are facing as a county in terms of terrain, in terms of poverty, and in terms of historical injustice. A county that had been neglected, we really thought that with devolution would have been among the first ones to be considered to get enough resources so that we can be able to transform.
MP Fatuma Gedi echoed Rotich's sentiments while calling on the governor to woo more investors and donors to help fund development projects.
When you are there, tunaona Elgeyo Marakwet is a very rich county. But again, we acknowledge this is the home of champions. But today from these discussions, we really sympathize with you because of the underfunding that this county is getting. regardless of the little resources that you receive, which is very little compared to the other counties we've been to before, you can mobilize and attract partners to come and help this county.
Juliet Chepkoech, Lookuptv.
Now, Naivasha Level 4 Hospital is on the spot after 20 newborns are reported to have lost their lives in the last 1 month. Now, this comes after service providers pulled out their services after going unpaid for months, with the money owed to them totaling to over 300 million Kenya shillings.
Suppliers linked to Naivasha Level 4 Hospital have pulled down their services due to lack of payment, saying the hospital holds them more than 300 million shillings. Equally, the management has also admitted to be facing an acute challenge of funding threatening ground services, including food and feeding cups.
Yeah, we have issues with the other things like feeding cups. We have mortality of from 10 to 15 babies, from 10 to 20 hapo.
Mama wakizaa tunahitaji tunawatengenezea koko before they leave the labor room. We don't have a tea and it's broken down. Na pia hatuna koko na sugar. So our mothers are not otire.
You're talking about the machines, but even the sugar and
According to workers here at critical machines like incubators broke down months ago, while at the pharmacy last dispatch was sent in November last year. The lack of services has led to children sharing one incubator, putting them at risk of contracting diseases.
Na unajua laboratory is the heart of any facility of this kind. So hiyo ninaomba tu gavana hata kama ni kuingia ataingia kwa mfuko. Kwanza atuamshie hizo machines.
Members of the county assembly Nakuru have also raised their concerns about the 300 million shillings debt, saying that the assembly is coming up with short-term measures to rescue the hospital.
Yeah, I think the hospital owed our suppliers to between 250 300 million, of which the county government has promised to settle part of that debt. As at now, we have forwarded some of those debts to the county and they are making arrangements to settle them.
Ukiangalia upande huu wa watoto hakuna pahali pengine kuna incubator. Sasa ukisikia kwamba incubator ni bili tu functional, wale watoto wako hapo wana share 4 na 3, unaona ya kwamba hata hizo communicable diseases.
Healthgate member of County Assembly Virginia Maitha echoed the sentiments as she called for an urgent action to save many patients seeking services at the facility.
Kikaa kama kutakuwa na supplementary na budget yenye inapita, tuweze kuona kenye kinaweza kuja kwa hospitali yetu, ndio tuweze kuinua hospitali yetu kutoka pahali iko. Kama ni theater tuwe na theater zenye zinahitajika, na tuweze kusukuma hospitali yetu ifike level 5.
Mevin Getembe, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
Now, fear has rocked Kabete in Kiambu County after the body of a 19-year-old student from Kabete National Polytechnic was found lying on the floor with injuries on the face and a piece of rope on his neck.
Residents of Limuru Town, Kiambu County, woke up to the unpleasant news of the murder of a 19-year-old student of Kabete National Polytechnic who was found dead in his house with severe injuries on his face.
Tukaambiwa kuna kijana ameuliwa kwa nyumba. Sasa ndio tulikuja mbio, tutakuja mpaka hapa. Kukuja kuangalia tukapata kijana ameanguka hapo chini. Kwa uso akona vidonda na akona kaba kwa shingo. Hata hatujui ni nini kiliendelea. Hata saa hizi hatujajua ni nini kiliendelea. Hii si mara ya kwanza. Kuko na kijana mwingine pia alipigiwa hapa na akaambiwa hapa tu.
According to the area residents, insecurity has been a major issue in this area. Locals blaming it on young people who consume illicit brew. They are now calling on the national government to intervene and curb the dire situation.
Hapa ni mingi sana na sio ya pombe ya kawaida, ni ingine. Abia kashauri akuje mtarakwa.
They have also accused the Mutarako police officers of negligence as the spate of insecurity in the region has been happening under their watch.
Ndio hii nyumba ya polisi, ndio hii. Na tangu asubuhi tuko hapa bure. Sasa tunafanya namna gani? Mimi sitaki kuongea sana kwa sababu ya Mutarako. Juzi hii unaona hapa? Mwingine anaua hapa. Analetwa hapa. Tena ni boma nyingine. Kwaja kesho ni kesho hiyo nyingine. Sasa hapa Mutarako tuko namna gani? Serikali itusaidie sababu wako hapa na nini na kila kitu na hakuna kitu inaendelea.
Businesses in Mutarako were also affected after concerned residents went to the streets to demonstrate over the rising insecurity cases, demanding an immediate action from the police officers.
Security hapa ni mbaya. Juzi kulikuwa na kijana mwingine aliuliwa hapa tu, hapa nyuma. Na police station iko hapa karibu. Huyu sasa ameuliwa. Na hatukuona response ya askari. Tangu saa hii kutoka asubuhi ile tulipata hii maneno mpaka saa hii.
Weri Mukimani, Lookuptv.
Now, President William Ruto's decision to lift the ban on logging has come under a lot of scrutiny from environmentalists. Now, the Sengwer community is the latest community to weigh in on the matter, terming the move a danger to the conservation of the forests.
Mbombut Forest in Elgeyo Marakwet County has been a home to the Sengwer community for a long time, as well as sources of rivers that help the nearby communities in agriculture and animal husbandry. However, the recent announcement made by the President William Ruto while in Molo is raising concerns to the people of Sengwer. Members of Sengwer community have noted that cutting down of trees in forests without a plan will drag behind their progress.
Tulipatikana pale, sisi ni watu ambao tunashirikiana sana na miti, hatuishi bila miti. Na hizo miti yote ambayo tunaishi pamoja ni marafiki zetu na ni miti ya kienyeji. Tuko na uchusi ya kutosha kuhifadhi msitu hii. Ili hali serikali walitunyang'anya tangu mwaka wa 1964, wakaleta watu naitwa KBS, ndio uharibifu mingi ikaingia kwa hii msitu wetu wa Mbombut, ambao alichangia vitu mingi. Walichangia eviction, msitu ikaribika. Watu wengine wakalete mambo ya ukulima ya pairedo, akachangia uharibifu wa msitu. Na ukienda kwa undani, walimu na wale serikali wanaitwa stakeholders ni sisi watu wa jamii ya Sengwer.
The residents are disappointed by the president's directive and termed it misjudging, since they were granted permission by the court to continue living in the forest with strict measures.
Nashangaa sana sababu mwenye alikuwa ana-impose logging ni president wa sasa ambaye alikuwa deputy president kwa wakati huo. Na nakumbuka vizuri sana kuna task force iliyopewa kazi kuchunguza ban of logging of trees in our forests in Kenya. Na walipata utepetepu kubwa sana, ile corruption yenye jawahi onekana. KFS wa appointed kwamba ni wile watu corrupt sana. Ile hii chango yenye sisi tunaona kwa Kenya, ile yenye imekuwa contributed mara mingi ni KFS wenyewe. Na shida sasa president vile amekuwa president anajaribu kurutisha ile maneno yenye alikuwa anakataa.
The community members are urging the government to stop illegal logging and to involve them in their plans to preserve the forest in the area, because they earn a living from the conservation of the forest.
We are optimistic that with all the strategies that has already been put in place, together with the partners and also the national government, we will actually be going back to where we belong and embracing this conservation agenda so as to have the matter of water being sufficient to all of us. And we
Nushin Mungasia, Lookuptv.
Now, thousands of women in Isiolo County are set to benefit from free cervical and breast cancer screening and diagnosis now thanks to the Isiolo County government. Now, with treatment for any of them diagnosed commencing immediately. Now, these and more stories in our county roundup.
Speaking at Bulapesa Dispensary, where free cancer exercise was launched, Isiolo's First Lady Habiba Guyo called upon all women in the county to take advantage of the free program and turned up for screening, noting that the disease is a menace that has ruined the lives of countless individuals and family.
Kwa hivyo wamama wenzangu, msione kansa ni kitu imestikiwa kwa mtu. Kansa inaweza tibiwa. Kansa pia iko na vaccine. Kwa wasichana wetu wadogo wenye umri wa tuseme miaka 12 kwenda juu, kuna vaccine. Pangane tuweze kupimwa, tujue ni nani ako nayo na ni nani hana. Na ukiwa nayo, kama unaogopa kusema mbele ya public, nifuate mimi, kwa sababu ukipatikana nayo leo utaanzishwa matibabu leo na gavana atasimama na nyinyi mpaka mwisho wa matibabu.
Miriam Githaiga, a survivor of breast cancer who was diagnosed with the disease in 2016 and started treatment immediately and is now cancer-free, urged all women to make it a routine to undergo regular screening, noting that the disease is easily curable if detected early enough, but is a monster once detected late. In Narok County, Masai Girls Chief Principal Cecilia Teeka has applauded parents for taking their girl children to school, unlike before. He further noted that cases of teenage pregnancies among school girls have greatly reduced.
Masai Girls is an extra county school, though the majority are from the locality. So we have majority of the girls, like 90% are Masais. So clearly the school has got 1,600 students, as we report, girls. And as I've said, most of them are from Narok County. So clearly that's an indication that the Masais and if Narok County have embraced education. It's no longer about coercing them to bring students to school. The fathers particularly have paid much attention to education of the girl child.
Elsewhere in Machakos County, 60 teachers from 10 public secondary schools in Mwala who graduated on Saturday at Kenya Connect after completion of the 2-year course are expected to empower learners with question formulation techniques rather than the traditional mode of learning where teachers ask questions.
A pedagogical strategy that we have been working to implement among our teachers in 10 schools. So 60 teachers participated. The focus was on training the teachers to work with students so that students can be able to generate meaningful questions.
And aspirants of the presiding Methodist Church elections have called for transparency and fairness in the process of replacing outgoing presiding Bishop Joseph Ntombura, who was bundled out of the office on allegations of violating the church constitutions.
I wish everybody to wear the spirit of reconciliation. I would wish everybody to wear the spirit of healing. For us, we should not even be thinking of going to court. We should not even be thinking about fairness. We should not even be thinking of sijui nani atanifanyia nini. What we should be thinking about is praying.
Faith Bonareri, Lookuptv.
Yes.
Now we do take a short break here on the bottom line. When we come back, we'll be getting into that conversation with my guests talking about human rights and protests. Who is to blame for the violation of the human rights we've currently experienced in the country? I'll be engaging my guests when we come back. So continue engaging us on our socials at Amoy Brian on Twitter, at Lookuptv. The hashtag is the bottom line KE. We are also live on Facebook and on YouTube. So be sure to send your feedback on these particular social platforms and we'll sample some of them as we continue with the program tonight.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern